The Lakers have big decisions to make about Austin Reaves. Do you feel better about him now than you did when the playoffs started? That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for stopping by Locked On Lakers. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky, as we kick the offseason into higher gear. One of the big overarching questions, obviously, that they will have to deal with is the future of Austin Reaves. Both sides, all the reporting stating that the Lakers want Austin back, that Austin wants to remain a Laker, but God is in the details, Andy, and the details here are almost surely going to be, what's the number on that contract per year? One of the big things that was potentially problematic, that was getting people, especially when Austin came back and was really struggled against the Rockets. Are you comfortable giving him big money for all the reasons that we've discussed on this show over the course of the playoffs and, well before the playoffs began? The playoffs are over. The Lakers are out. Do you feel any better about Austin now than you did when the playoffs started?
I feel basically the same about Austin as I did before the playoffs began, during the season, where we are now. I think the everydayers would know whether they agree with my assessment of Austin or not. My assessment's been pretty consistent over the last few years. I think Austin is a very good player. Like, I think he is, the consensus around the league, if you look at different, NBA pundit polling, or when you hear execs talk about Austin, anonymously, whatever, scouts, I think he's considered somewhere in a consensus top 75-ish player. You can move the number a few spots in either direction. I'm not looking to debate it. I don't care what number you want to land on. That is more or less the tier.
He was
that
60 in the ESPN rankings that came out before the season started, and was somewhere similar. I think it's slightly higher in the like when the Ringer did the same.
Yeah. Point being, that makes you by definition a really good player. And that's what I think Austin is. I have had concerns, and I still have concerns, that the Lakers they view Austin internally and have increasingly slotted Austin, earmarked Austin, better than he actually is. And that's not a slight against Austin. That type of player, like the second best player on a contending level team, that's a really damn good player. I mean, if you look at most championship teams, the guy that was, or even teams that maybe didn't win a championship, but they made a lot of deep playoff runs, got to the finals, whatever, the consensus second best player on those teams typically is a Hall of Famer, or somebody that is at least in a Hall of Fame conversation. Respectfully to Austin, he's not on that track. It's not a slight against somebody to say that they are not on a Hall of Fame track. If it is, you are too sensitive. But the point being, do I think Austin can be a part of a team that is contending? Absolutely. Do I think he can be the second best player on a contending team, or even like the technically third best, but you feel like in a lot of ways he's their second? I'm not sold on it. And that's a really big deal for the Lakers moving forward.
I think it depends on who. The thing about, because I'll tell you where I feel better. My answer is sort of like, there are areas in which I think Austin actually did, despite up and down numbers, answer a lot of questions about his potential effectiveness as a playoff performer. There are no I think doubts about his efficacy really as a regular season guy, like that, in terms of the 82 games that get you to the playoffs, assuming he's healthy, which is a whole separate question. Austin is going to be a very valuable and very consistent performer for you over the course of the regular season. And that is not for nothing. So I think that is obviously points in his favor, but those were points in his favor before. When you sort of look under the hood at where Austin struggles in the playoffs, it kind of looks like the whole thing just collapses, but it's actually not true. Even in this year's playoffs, and our friend at Stock Franco did a great breakdown of this on his Substack, but it confirms sort of the eye test and some of the other numbers that have been around for Austin. Austin actually got into the paint and finished in the paint at basically an elite level in the postseason. Like, he still breaks down defenses and gets into the paint at an elite level. And that is one of the things, like, if Austin against the Thunder, for example, could not get into the paint, just, they were manhandling him to the point they couldn't get there, then I'd have a lot of concerns. But that wasn't the issue. Where Austin has collapsed as a player, an offensive player, especially in the last two postseasons, is not in the paint. It's anywhere that isn't the paint. Yeah. It's his 3-point shooting, whether you're talking about contested 3-point shots or uncontested 3-point shots, has collapsed for the last two seasons. Yeah. And that's not good. But I also find it to be the thing that's sort of most likely to be kind of swing back and forth from year to year. So from an offensive standpoint, just because I think the variance in, like, hitting wide open 3-pointers is not something I think that's based on, like, Austin can't hit a wide open 3-pointer in the playoffs. Like, I don't buy that as a reasoning for why, the 3-point percentage is somehow related to the postseason, the quality of the defenses that he's facing, and all these other things. When he misses a wide open 3-pointer, that's not because the defense, so he's just had two really bad perimeter shooting postseasons in a row.
I mean, it could be because his body is breaking down some during the playoffs because he's hurt a lot heading into the playoffs or during the playoffs.
Possibly.
Affects his legs.
But I would also think that affects your ability to break, put the ball on the floor and get into the paint.
Well, but he's better at getting into the paint than he is a jump shooter anyway.
I understand that, but there's a lot of middle ground in between a guy who shoots 37, 38, 39% in the regular season and 18% in the postseason. I think there's a happy medium in there somewhere where even if he's low to mid 30s, which is lower than you'd want to be, it's better than 18. And it still makes you a very valuable offensive player in the postseason. But after we'll talk next about the problem. So, like, I feel actually more comfortable about Austin offensively than I did coming into the playoffs because, again, of where he was getting his shots and what he was able to do against two very good teams to get those shots. It doesn't answer all the questions, though, and I'll explain next. Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Wayfair. It is outdoor space season. And in that outdoor space should feel like you. It's one of those spots that you keep meaning to fix up, you never quite get around to. And that's where Wayfair comes in. They make it easy to find the pieces that match the vibe that you want. I love how easy it is to find what you're looking for on Wayfair, that you filter by style, budget. You can find exactly what fits your space and what exactly it is that you want to get for that outdoor areas that you're trying to spruce up for the summertime. We've got at our house, we've got Wayfair in the backyard, we've got Wayfair on the front porch, and all of these pieces fit exactly the way that we want them to, because we kind of measure it out and see all that stuff, and they look great. And the customer service that we got in the process of doing this was outstanding. They have everything in one place: seating, decor, lighting, even outdoor rugs. And with thousands of verified reviews, you really do feel confident in what you're getting. So get prepped for patio season for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now and shop all things home. WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Kalshi. The playoffs are underway. It's the most electric time in basketball on Kalshi. You can trade every single playoff game, every series, the conference finals, and the championship. As of this recording, the Thunder, who took out the Lakers, you may recall, they are trading at a 60% probability to win the championship, meaning a $100 trade pays out at 162.11. The probability has actually gone down a little bit after the Lakers-Thunder series. The Spurs, I think, building up a little confidence. As the playoffs heat up, those numbers move in real time, and you can buy in or out at any time. And on Kalshi, you are trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in or out of your position for a limited time. Download the Kalshi app. Use the code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade 10. Kalshi, Kalshi, trade on everything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risks, may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory.
Locked on Lakers also brought to you by Rocket Money. If you've ever opened up your bank account and you thought, where'd all the money go? You're certainly not alone. Keeping track of subscriptions and spending and bills can get overwhelming quickly, and that's where Rocket Money comes in. It helps you take control of your finances all in one place. That central location is critical because you can't fix what you can't see, what you can't monitor. Visibility in your finances is essential. You can track all your subscriptions in one spot, cancel the ones that you don't need with just a few taps, and we all have those. There's things that auto renew every year or every 6 months or every month or whatever it might be. It's really easy to lose track of them. Rocket Money also automatically categorizes your spending, so you can see where your money is going. You can set budgets, get alerts, stay on top of your bills, makes everything more organized and gives you that visibility you need to get a handle on your finances from day to day. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel unwanted subscriptions. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join rocketmoney.com/locked-on. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. Okay, so again, here's the part of the ledger that I'm confident in. Austin was actually, as the sort of focal point of a team's defensive attention, was able to still get into the paint, do some good stuff there. Jump shot wasn't there against either team. I get that. And that ability to get into the paint, which we've seen across the playoffs, whether you're talking the Lakers, their opponents, whatever it is essential in the postseason.
Yes, it is.
You have to be able to do that. And so
Absolutely.
between Luka and Austin, in any playoff series, the Lakers will really be able to attack in that way very effectively. Cool. The part that is problematic and got no less problematic in the playoffs is defense and what you do on that side of the ball. Because when you add in Luka, it doesn't get better. So the Lakers, it's not that they can't play good defense with Luka and Austin on the floor. They can. It's been demonstrated. But what the combination does is forces the Lakers to fill in around them in more specific ways, because you have to, like, you can't bring in, another, really good offensive player who lacks defensive chops and as like another sort of high-end starter or something like that. That just won't work. Like, you are more limited in what you can do. The flip side is, if you have Austin and if you have Luka, you know exactly what you need. And so therefore you can target the types of players that fill the holes that you have. So, everybody knows what the problems are, but everybody knows what the problems are. So you can very surgically go try to solve them. But defense is definitely the part of this equation that you don't necessarily, at least I don't necessarily feel better about after the postseason.
What's going to be interesting about this and potentially complicating, by multiple accounts and reporting, Luka really wants Austin back. Like, I think he wants LeBron back as well, but he really wants Austin.
Yeah, because like LeBron comes back, it's for another year.
Right.
Austin is your sidekick for the next 3 or 4.
And they're also very close. Like,
Yep.
They enjoy playing together. They enjoy being teammates. They enjoy being friends. Like, they enjoy being around each other. And it's just abundantly clear that is a teammate that Luka wants to keep, which to some degree in these negotiations gives Austin some leverage. And that's going to affect the number that they land on potentially. And just prepping, because we hear from a lot of fans, the number will likely make a lot of you uncomfortable, no matter where it is. It's going to make a lot of people uncomfortable. You have to just start bracing yourself for that. The other piece of this, though, that I think is going to be complicated, you mentioned the idea of addressing the needs that I think are pretty well established for a team that would be foundationally built around Luka and Austin and attacking it surgically, which you would want to do. But I don't know if they're necessarily going to have in this metaphor all of the right medical instruments to do this surgically in a way that will work because of whether you're talking about cap restrictions, whether you're talking about available trade targets, whether you're talking about a free agency pool that is not particularly strong. People often bring up the Luka in Dallas model, particularly the team that went to the finals, as a template for how you can and should build around Luka. And I think there is certainly some proof of concept there. Like, it really might be the best way to do it. And Austin theoretically fills the Kyrie Brunson slot. Even if you think he's the worst of those three, from a prototype standpoint, Austin fits that. The problem, though, with trying to hit that model, or at least what makes it more complicated, is the model was possible in no small part because the Mavs absolutely knocked the Derrick Jones Jr. vet minimum signing out of the park. Like, that is one of the best veterans minimum signings in like the last 5 to 10 years. That was a big part of that success. That's not easy to replicate. They also had Derek Lively II on a rookie scale deal as a center that they ultimately tanked the last few weeks of that season leading up to that draft in order to keep that pick. So you've got a young, cost-controlled center who happened to be ready as a rookie to contribute. Not easy to replicate that part of it for the Lakers. They also traded for Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington Jr. because they had these suitable contracts to make those sorts of moves. Again, Lakers don't have that. So the template may be there, but as you said, like the surgically replicating it, I think will be more difficult for the Lakers.
It does. And I think the other part of this that's important to remember is it doesn't get easier. If you let Austin go, it doesn't, like, because you don't like the number, because it's like, you don't, if you let him go, it doesn't suddenly, like, it's not like you get to pluck another player out of another team's another organization because you're like, you know what, you fit better as our number 2, and therefore we're going to take you. I always use, would it be great to have Scotty Barnes as your running mate for Luka, as opposed to, at least for the time being, it would be Austin as your number 2. By the way, it's worth noting that just because you slot in Austin as your number 2 now doesn't mean he is always going to be the second best player. There is no reason that in 2 years it might not be a different player to make a new big 3. LeBron certainly would be gone by then. It's like the slotting is not forever. But if you decide Austin's not quote unquote worth the money, somebody else is you're gonna have to give that money to somebody else, or hold on to that money and be significantly worse as a team going into the year. So those are kind of your choices. And I personally,
unless you can find a trade where you're essentially trading into your cap space and replacing,
right? If you can find a trade that you're trading into your cap space, if you can, but we've discussed, for all the reasons that we've discussed, it's going to be a challenge to do that because the Lakers don't have appealing contracts. They don't have lots of good young players that they can dangle out there. They've got some draft picks, but the draft picks are somewhat limited in value because they've got Luka. And, the mechanism means to be able to, most teams will assume that these picks are going to be somewhere in the mid 20s, which mitigates their value. And so, it'd be great to have a perfect running mate for Luka. Okay. That's not a choice. So what do you do when, if your second choice is Austin Reaves, you know what? A player of Austin Reeves' caliber, a top 50-ish player, is a 30 to 35 to $40 million player in this league. Tyler Hero makes $33 million, I think, next year, 31, 32, something like that, 33. I would rather have Austin Reaves than Tyler Hero. And
I agree. That doesn't necessarily, though, make me want to pay Austin that amount. It just means I'd rather pay Austin that than Tyler Hero.
But the point is, if you want what people seem to want is a player that's as good as Austin, who is got the skills, a skill set that's a little bit more complementary, is on the same level as Austin, and does all this, but costs less. Or they want to make available a more established star that they can somehow trade Austin for, or do all these things in ways that don't make any sense either. Like, the Lakers have access to a player who is very high end and almost impossible for them to replace. If they can do better, I am all on board the let's move on from Austin train. I am deeply skeptical that they can do better. And what they can't do next year is get worse.
You are correct that replacing that out, I'm not going to say it's impossible because there are better players in the league than Austin, but it will be difficult. I do think, though, what Laker fans are looking for isn't so much that player you were describing, but at less than the projected price of Austin. I think what they actually want is a player that if they're going to pay a lot of money, or what they see as a lot of money, they want it to be someone that actually does certain things that Luka doesn't do, that can actually strengthen those weaknesses.
That's really what I was
right.
I
But there's a distinct
no, you're right.
difference.
I should have articulated that better. But but that player probably costs more than Austin, and it's going to be harder to acquire because they're more valuable, and they need a real 3-and-D wing instead of Austin. Okay, how many of those are there? Who's available, and how are you going to get them? So I just think we'll keep unpacking this stuff, but like, this sort of sets the table for the big questions that you have to answer around Austin, and the looking and sort of the understanding that there are no magic bullet solutions out there. This is going to be kind of a combination, I think, a cobbling together of imperfect solutions, but doing sort of piling up enough B+ solutions here that you end up with a really good team. But Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can hang out with over 38,000 subscribers to the show. We will be back tomorrow with more from this week as we set up the off season. We'll see you then.